All right, they can hear us, and we're just waiting for a few more people to show up in the chat, and then we'll kick things off.
Hello, people that can hear us.
What up, everybody?
Let me ask you a question. I've always wanted to ask you this, and I never
Okay.
have. How many names did you go through before you decided on Elseworlds Exchange?
That was the name.
Oh, like immediately? Like right out of the
Literally,
gate?
yeah. Yeah,
Interesting.
Joel and I were talking about it, and we were going to do a show. This was the show. Like, Joel and I were talking about how, like, we would do the weekly poll, and then we'd be like, oh, we could still talk for, like, another hour, but we should, monetize it. So then we were like, well, I guess we'll have to do a podcast together, and then we were like, what should the name be? And I think we wrote down a whole bunch of ideas, and I was like, well, because we're crossing over and talking about things that are not necessarily connected to comic books, we're kind of going outside our wheelhouse, and the first word that came to my mind was Elseworlds, because like it's leaving the norm and going into something else. At least that's what it used to mean to me. And so I was like, and because we're talking back and forth, I wanted it to be alliterative, so I thought like, oh, well, I need a word that means conversation that starts with E. And so I went with exchange.
It's good. I mean, I love Elseworlds, man. Like, they're so good. I'm so glad that, like, DC is finally collecting some of the older ones.
Yes, a fan sent me Justice League Elseworlds, Volume 1.
Yeah. It has the Justice Riders and stuff like that.
Yes!
I'm waiting for... There's 2 volumes of the Batman now. And I'm waiting for the Superman one because...
Yeah.
I'm just... there's, like, a really crazy... I can't remember. They called it, like... It was an Elseworlds, but it was, like, Dead Earth or something like that. And there's a really great Superman story from that.
Okay.
And I'm waiting for that collection.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. That's funny.
There's also a crazy one where John Byrne did the storyline where Superman crashed right before the American Revolution.
Okay.
Or no, it wasn't Superman. It was his grandfather. So it was the grandfather of Jor-El. And he crashes right in the middle of the American Revolution, and like he helps Britain like win it.
All right.
And so like America becomes
like a colony, or
it becomes a colony of like basically Superman, because like Superman eventually takes over, and so you're seeing. So the storyline moves ahead to like modern day.
Oh no, that's not True Brit, is it?
No, it's not True Brit. They did it in an annual. It was like one of the years that all the annuals were just Elseworlds.
I remember that year, and they were solid.
Yeah, and that one's a great one because so it's moved forward to modern day. Kal-El is like depowered because this guy has been like screwing humans. So like he only has like a quarter Kryptonian.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's a little bit stronger, but his grandfather's basically straight up Superman.
Yeah.
And his grandfather has kept the technology of humans at the level of the 1776.
Oh shit. Okay.
So that they can't come against him, and so it's about his Kal-El leading the revolution against his grandfather, who is actually Superman.
That's hilarious.
And it's like the British flag, except it has like the Superman emblem in the middle.
Right,
of it.
they figured out how to incorporate it into the logo. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love
but
that.
It's not Superman Brit. I've read that one too, but it's very similar.
Yeah, I don't like True Brit. I feel like John Cleese was involved in the development of that book. I
think he was.
I really want to get that Revolution book though. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's one of those that like it's one of those where you're just like, oh, they would never like collect that on their own.
No.
But like with these Elseworld collections, like maybe they will.
That's why I've actually been kind of hunting down a few old Elseworlds books because I like to do them on back issues every once in a while. So
man, so they're so hard to find now, right?
They are. Yeah, I really wanted to get Superman Speeding Bullets, and it's so out of print. It's like $50,
I know that one. What's that one about?
That's the one where Kal-El lands in Gotham and is raised by the Waynes.
Oh yeah, it has that great cover where like Batman's like floating above the city.
Yeah, it's the like Superman whichever cover that is, but it's Batman. Oh, that's amazing. That's a good one. That's DeMatteis.
That is a great. There's also a great one where where Batman becomes the Green Lantern.
Yes. Crap. I can't remember the name of it, but that's another one I wanted to do.
That's a good one.
That's a great one,
man. Like, oh man, I really wish And I've like loosely mentioned this in the halls of DC, like to every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I would just love if the 5th week we just got like, like 4 like 90-page one-shots that are all Elseworlds.
Oh, please, yes.
Like every 5th week. Yeah. Writers would want to do them, but also like use them as a thing to like let some of your more rookie writers and artists like get a shot.
I feel like that was how Marvel What If was developed. They're like, we want to see if these people can work under a deadline, but we're not really ready to give them a regular book. So let them tell the alternate tale of Atlantis attacks and see how Set would have taken over the world in like 15 pages.
Mm-hmm. Jack Ingram in the chat, he just mentioned what is one of my favorite Elseworlds of all time, Justice League The Nail.
The Nail. Yes.
They're re-releasing that. I think here in a couple months. I want to say I saw it on Amazon because every once in a while I'll peruse Amazon's recommended for me, and they'll always like give me stuff that's coming down the line.
Yeah.
They're doing a deluxe edition of that with both series, so you get the Nail and another Nail.
Nice, and you get both nails.
You get both nails. You get 2 nails.
Your annual thing reminded me. All right, you know what? Let me drop the curtain. We'll
sure, go ahead.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Elseworlds Exchange. I am Sal, and joined with me today is Jason Inman of DC All Access and Jawiin. He is working on, or has actually developed, a comic series called Jupiter Jet along with his wife, and it's actually available, the Kickstarter that is, in the description box below this video. But Jason, tell them a little bit about the book that they can go... you've got 8 days left to back this project.
We have 8 days left on this book. Yeah, Jupiter Jet is an all-ages comic book. It's made with a lot of love, a lot of heart, and a lot of steampunk, straight from my heart. It's about a 16-year-old girl who finds a jetpack in her dead father's workshop, and she decides to steal from the mob to help provide for her and her brother and their neighborhood. So it's a basic, steal from the rich, give to the poor. Along the way, she steals something that she shouldn't have, and this man named Pluto with glowing eyes and a ray gun and robot. I almost said robot, like
you're like a 20s prospector.
Yeah, and his robot henchmen start hunting her down, and we're fully funded right now, but we're out there. We're making a last ditch effort of the last 8 days to really push, because we have this backup story that we want to do, and the backup will be drawn by Jorge Corona of We Are Robin and The Flash, and it's called The Origin of the Jetpack. So if you want to donate over there, you can go to that link in the description, jupiterjetcomic.com. And the great thing about donating to a campaign that's already funded is that you know that you're going to get the book. It's guaranteed.
Yeah, I love that.
We have some really cool rewards left. Like if you're interested in comic books, like Brendan Fletcher of Motor Crush and Batgirl will review one of your scripts. Like, that's a hell of a reward. Come on.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, well, I was going to say you can't buy that, but apparently you can, and it's available right now.
You can buy that now.
So, Jason and I were talking about 90s comics events, and actually a prelude to that was actually the origin of the name Elseworlds Exchange, and we were talking about Elseworlds titles and this amazing phenomenon that DC did, in which they, for a very brief period, would put the annuals of their titles in an alternate reality and just tell kind of a one-off story. And I was just remembering the Shadow of the Bat story that I have in my collection that I don't know where I got it. It might have been my parents picked it up for me and were like, here's a Batman book. And it's Batman at the end of time. And
what?
It's this concept that, like, Gotham City is the last human city left before the fall of mankind.
Okay.
And it's basically an allegory for Batman, where there's, like, the Waynes or the Batman characters or analogs have had, like, their houses, and there's, like, their first sons become Robins, and it's kind of like a Game of Thrones, but, like, 30 years prior. And it's just really cool. They fight, like, lizard people, and there's this, like, I want to say it's like a devil analog character who's just standing on the edge of oblivion, and he's just hoping that if Batman can succeed, then maybe the universe won't end in entropy and oblivion. And it's just
I don't know how that happens, but sure.
It's such a mindfuck book. But I was like, and as a child, I'm just like, what the hell is happening? No context, no part 1 or 2. It's just this, and then it ends, and you're just like, oh, I guess that was cool. But I loved these self-contained, ridiculous, off the wall, like, try anything stories.
Well, speaking of it, there is an Elseworlds 90s crossover event. It is called Legends of the Dead Earth.
Okay.
and it was this crossover that happened in '96, and it was like it crossed over with every single DC annual, and they were all like I believe set in the same universe, but it's the idea that Earth was dead, and the idea was that like most of these legends that you were reading about were like told by Martian Manhunter and stuff like that.
Okay.
So that is a '90s event, and it's also an Elseworlds event.
Nice. Way to tie it in, man.
It was like in every single annual of the year, and they had like the top of the cover like was brown and stone, and the bottom of the cover was like brown and stone, and it says Legends of a Dead Earth.
That's really cool. I kind of wish that they would try that now, where they're like, oh, we're going to put the event in the end of every like month or whatever, just tie it all in and not make you have to buy it if you don't want to. But
what do you think? Let's throw this out there right now. Let's get this out of the gate.
Yeah.
Talking about successful 90 events.
Right.
What do you think is the most successful 90s event? Because a lot of people like to think that events are this invention from the 2000s. I think primarily because of Civil War and Infinite Crisis is why. They keep selling. That's the reason why the companies keep doing them. But
right.
I think the event really started. I actually think the event really started. The modern event started with Death of Superman. I think that is where it starts, because I think both comic book companies saw how well that sold, and they went nuts about it. But what do you think? I would say, like, critically and financially was probably the most successful event in your eyes of the 90s.
I mean, I would hesitate to even call the Death of Superman an event as much as I'd call it a stunt. Because it wasn't a story, and as much as it was just the Death of Superman is literally just Doomsday lands and then Superman dies. Like, that's the story. And there isn't any story. It's literally just, let's highlight how crappy the Justice League is at that time, and then Superman can die. And we even dispatch the main villain as well. So the whole thing is kind of wrapped up in this kind of buzzwordy, like, hyperlink moment that you just don't really even regard. Reign of the Supermen? That's an event.
True.
And garbage. But
and World Without a Superman.
World Without a Superman, exactly. No, once Death of Superman, I think that definitely is the catalyst for the event. But I mean, like, I think even something as simple as Secret Wars was one of the first events, where it's like, that's a 12-issue miniseries in which all the characters do a thing. But for me, the most successful of the 90s, I think I have to say Age of Apocalypse.
I think I have to agree with you. I really do.
Because no one hates it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's held up very well.
Despite the fact that it's about an alternate future. You know, Days of Future Past, I think, is 3 issues. And yet that is regarded. Like, that's not an event.
2.
Maybe it is even 2. But it's really short. You know, it's not even close to an event, and yet it's hailed as this X-Men moment, this seminal period, where we see maybe, like, 13 collective panels of this dark future. Whereas Age of Apocalypse, the whole damn thing takes place in this alternate present-future time that is largely irrelevant, despite the fact that so many characters were brought over from Age of Apocalypse after the event ended.
Age of Apocalypse also did this thing that, and it might have been done in comics before then, and I don't know, is that the event happens in the main titles of the book.
Right.
And so much so that they rename all the books. And in fact, Age of Apocalypse is what brought me into X-Men comic books in the 90s, because I remember I got like a couple books before, like during the Legion quest, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then suddenly the next issue I got, it was called like, oh God, what were they called? It wasn't the Uncanny X-Men, it was the Amazing X-Men, and I was like, what?
Right.
And the logo was different, and Magneto was on the cover, and I was like, what the hell is this? And I was reading it. Also, I think Age of Apocalypse is one of the first events to do like the Alpha and the Omega one-shots before and after.
Yeah. Oh,
there was Alpha, Omega, and Prime.
Yes. I mean, Alpha is the image everyone thinks of when they think of Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, the two-spread cover,
The only reason it's not the cover for this is because there's no high-res of image of it on Google Images that I could find in the last 20 minutes. Yeah. Instead, I have, I think it's a Joe Mad cover that he did for a alternate Age of Apocalypse for Secret Wars.
Like a reprint or something like that?
It was Secret Wars' Age of Apocalypse. So they got him to come back and like redraw some ideas that he had.
Works. Still
Cool idea. It holds up, and the images are still representative of the event we're talking about. But like, I think you have the success of this story, the success and the popularity of the X-Men, plus the gimmicky covers where you can inflate the price. So you have all the perfect storm of 90s plus event plus X-Men, which is what kind of defines modern comics from that period, I think.
Yeah. It's strange that a lot of it, I believe, like a lot of the 90s crossovers or the events, for me, I really come from X-Men.
Yeah.
Like, because they had well, even before that, they had like Fatal Attractions, right? They had
the Executioner song.
But I think it was like Age of Apocalypse was where they were like, oh, we are just printing money.
Yes, so, Age of Apocalypse was, we can do no wrong. And
there was like Operation Zero Tolerance after this.
Yup. Oh,
remember that?
Onslaught came next. Then
Onslaught. I actually like Onslaught. I admit that Onslaught doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
It like fails by the ending of it.
Really?
But they did such a long build-up for Onslaught.
Yeah.
Like, it was like a 2-year build-up for Onslaught. Yeah. So that by the time Onslaught happened, I was like, hell yeah.
Onslaught, I think, represents the hubris that was earned from Age of Apocalypse. Age of Apocalypse was when they went, holy shit, this is successful. Let's do this every year.
Every year, man. Yeah, and then like, I'm gonna Google. There were so many of them. I don't even remember them all. I'm gonna Google like X-Men events.
Yeah, I love that you brought up. God, what was it called?
Zero
Tolerance, because that sucks.
Oh, it's so bad.
And they know it too. Like, there's no one is like, whoa, Zero Tolerance, one of my favorite. I love Bastion and Maggot and Marrow.
You know, I like the look of Bastion. I do. He doesn't hold up to what he was supposed to do. Right. But I agree with you that was the event that introduced Maggot, who is quite possibly the worst X-Men character of all time.
Easily. Well, I don't know. Beak, I think, kind of has a slight lead in that category.
I like, just by looks. You know, the funny thing about it is that I once had this conversation with Scott Lobdell, who was writing the X-Men during this time.
Oh, yeah.
Age of Apocalypse. And he told me that the only reason he created Maggot was because at the time, Hasbro or Mattel, I'm not certain which one would have made their toys at the time, they were making all kinds of X-Men action figures at the time because of the cartoon, and the action figures were selling like crazy.
Yeah, they were.
So he started writing characters into the book just to see if they would make an action figure of it.
No! That's the worst.
So it was a bet between him and Joe Mad about like who's the crazier character that they could make the action figure of it. And guess what? They didn't make an action figure of Maggot.
No.
But they did make an action figure of. There's this small little 8-year-old blonde girl and her giant like dewback from Star Wars, and it's called like Groot or Grok and Ravel or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, it was introduced during this very same time. They did make an action figure of them.
Naturally. Oh, yeah.
Marrow was also the same way, and they made an action figure of
I remember the Marrow figure. Let me tell you something. Actually, Tiffany found this. She was reading an old Wizard that I had, and in the Wizard magazine, in the very front, they used to have these like kind of variety-esque articles in the very beginning about the comic book industry. And one of them was Toy Biz mogul Avi Arad is becoming like whatever the hell, like a bigwig at Marvel, and they're welcoming in new president Ike Perlmutter, who came from the toy lines. And apparently, and it was interesting because they're like, there's this quote that was like, we're looking forward to like blending the comic books with our toy manufacturing like concerns. And you could see, it's like the Back to the Future like clock tower moment where you're like, oh no, if I could stop this, then Marvel wouldn't go into bankruptcy.
But man,
they were toy makers, man. Like Marvel was all about the toys, and
they were. It's part of the reason why they went bankrupt.
Yeah, and I was a sucker because I bought a lot of those toys.
I did too, man. But I will say, like, it really was like such a it was such a golden age of the toys as well, because I remember when they made Generation X toys.
Yeah.
And I bought them all. And it's like I did, because I just thought, I love Generation X. I love the first 25 issues of Generation X. I think are solid. They're so great.
Did Bocciolo do the art? Who did the art?
Chris Bocciolo. Yeah. And they made an action figure just based off a comic book.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, you got
comic book.
You got Age of. They had an Age of Apocalypse line.
Yeah.
You could get Holocaust.
I had those too.
You could get weird, like, Ultimate Warrior Apocalypse with his, like, red strappy things that were falling off his
I had
arms.
them all, dude. I had the really bad Weapon X one where they, like, the ability, he was like this.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it...
By the way, best Magneto I'd ever bought. I still have that Magneto. Yeah. It was, like, the first time they, like, actually made Magneto look badass.
Yes.
Until, like, Legends.
My Magneto was the Toy Biz one where you pulled the trigger on his back and sparks were supposed to come out of the front. Because he's... Magneto makes sense, but yeah, I think Age of
and chat was just like Generation X sucks. Sorry, Jason. It's like you don't gotta apologize for that. You also don't gotta call
you have to apologize for your behavior.
You all have different opinions.
Yeah,
I think your comment sucks.
Yeah, sorry, that sucks. Yeah, that's too bad.
By the way, I want to throw out. This is completely derailing like stuff. I completely don't understand the internet's need to be like, it's like to make sure the person that I'm insulting sees the insult.
Yes.
I don't understand that. Like, it would be like me like coming on Elseworlds Exchange to do a giant rant to tell you how much Elseworlds Exchange sucks.
Yep, that would be
It makes no sense.
It would be so weird and publicly uncomfortable and embarrassed. It would just be embarrassing. Yeah. Let me tell you, man. I'm reminded. When I dropped off of reading comics for a very big span of time, like
From when to when? Do you remember?
Oh, it was my entire high school career, like 4 years, and then half
high school career. You're so funny.
My high school career, the entire period in high school, I just didn't read comics, and then I think half a year into my freshman year of college, I got back into comics, and but for that whole chunk of time,
can I ask?
I'm sorry.
What brought you back in? Can I ask?
Oh man, J. Michael Straczynski's Spider-Man got me back in.
That's a good run, man.
Yeah, I was actually, it was funny. That and Ultimate Spider-Man, my roommate had the whole run of Ultimate Spider-Man in trade, and I had a lot of downtime because I was hiding from my terrible girlfriend at the time. And I was... and so I was like, well, I guess I'll read this. That's how I got into Exiles. He had all the Exiles trades.
Oh, that's a good book, too.
So I went through and I just started reading them. And number one, I was like, Ultimate Spider-Man is freaking amazing. And number two, I remember I picked up an issue because I dropped off Spider-Man during the Clone Saga. I picked up the issue where they killed Ben Reilly just to make sure he died. And then I heard that Mary Jane died in a plane accident. And I was like, pass. And so then I picked up the issue where MJ and Peter like reconcile and they fight Doctor Doom with Captain America.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah.
I was like, I'm like, wow, they talk like regular people. This is bizarre. But I loved it, and so I just got back into that.
That's cool. I would hold Ultimate Spider-Man up for me. Like if you were looking at like best ongoing series, man, I would throw that in there. Like Ultimate Spider-Man, like one of the best ongoing series of all time.
Oh no, there's no even the lowest points in Ultimate Spider-Man are still engaging.
Which are after Ultimatum.
Yep. Are still engaging and cool. Like but also that was, I think, after Ultimatum, Stuart Immonen came over on the title and he fucking rocked it, man.
He did.
That's why I'm excited to hear him. He's going on to Amazing Spider-Man. I'm like, oh, I might actually pick up the book again.
So you are in agreement, I would say, with me that no Spider event of the 90s is successful, right?
No. Web of Death, Clone Saga, like, because
Web of Death, I forgot about that. Oh, don't forget Maximum Carnage.
Which
That's
was
probably the most successful one.
Oh, easily. Oh no, Maximum Carnage, which had the audacity to kick it off by saying part one of a 14-part event. I remember picking up the first issue and being like, there's no fucking way it's going to be 14 issues.
There was a video game of that.
Oh, I owned both versions. I had the Genesis version and the SNES version. Yeah, I never beat it. But I got damn close.
Yeah, it's like, there's that, and then there's like, I'm trying to think of like some of the other events. Okay, I think Batman had some successful events.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Batman's the only one who had objectively successful events. I mean, Nightfall was unquestionably a success.
Yeah.
Night Quest. I don't know.
I like Contagion.
Contagions great. No Man's Land is excellent.
No Man's Land starts in '99, so there you go.
So it technically counts.
Yeah, it technically counts. So and that's one of my favorite Batman events and stories of all time.
What, No Man's Land?
No Man's Land.
It's so great.
I even like Legacy.
Yeah.
Which is it's going to be collected finally next month.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. Nice.
I'm just looking through the list here.
Yeah.
Prodigal.
I don't remember that one.
That's the one where Dick Grayson takes over for Batman for like
after he comes back.
After the broken back, yeah.
I only have the issue where he puts it on, and then I didn't pick it up again. It's
like 12 parts. It's basically standard Batman storytelling, but it's just him and Tim. It's a nice little preview of the kind of Batman that he would be later on down the line. I
was gonna say, because I remember when they made the Black Mirror. And everyone's like, "Holy shit, Dick Grayson!" I'm like, "Yeah, they did that like 20 years ago. Like, who's?"
Yeah, it was more of like, but I think the idea of that was that he was being Batman because Bruce Wayne was dead. Whereas this was Bruce Wayne being like, "I still need another week off."
Oh yeah. Oh no, that's exactly right. Yeah, the first
Just
one.
Take the Batmobile. I'm tired, man.
Right? Like, no. I just beat John Paul. I just looked at my bank account. I need to take a freaking vacation. I don't know if you know this. I'm a billionaire. I got lots of change I need to use.
These billions of dollars are burning a hole in my pocket.
That's right. I'm going to use it. Another successful one I have to say is unquestionably successful. The Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, I'll give the first one.
Oh, that's the only one with the word infinity in it that's successful. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give you the first one just because like. It was that night? I always think of that as 80s.
I do too.
Early 90s.
I do too. It's 91, I think.
Wow.
Because it's George Perez, and you're like, oh shit! Like it just looks. It's very evocative of Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Then Ron Lim, I think, takes over for the art, and it's like, oh. But,
yeah. Another one that we have to give a small shout out, whether or not we agree with how successful it was or how critically successful it was or not. Heroes Reborn.
Heroes Reborn. Yeah, that's an event. Was it I don't think that was remotely successful.
Well, no, actually it was.
Like financially successful, you mean?
The success and the notoriety of the Fantastic Four, Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor exists now because of Heroes Reborn. Because at the time, all of their titles were selling nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody wanted to buy the Avengers. Nobody wanted to buy Fantastic Four. Nobody wanted to buy Iron Man at all.
Yeah.
And post that event, their sales were equal to, if not better, sometimes than X-Men.
Interesting. Now,
so whether we agree with like the story wise of it or not, it worked. It did exactly what that event needed to do.
I will say,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was gonna say I was like, Heroes Reborn led us to what I think is the greatest Avengers run of all time, which is Kurt Busiek, George Perez.
That's right. I guess you could say that Heroes Reborn maybe gave it the shot, maybe raised the awareness of those titles so that Busiek and Perez could enjoy the success, because you also had the Ron Garney, Mark Waid Captain America series, which is fantastic.
And Kurt Busiek and Sean Chen's Iron Man comes after that too.
That's right. So. But and is it a chicken or the egg situation where it's like, well, you had fantastic creators who desperately wanted to remind everyone why these characters are so great, or was it the fact that we had image artists drawing and writing these like deflated characters, and then after they were pretty much ripped free from their hand? Because it wasn't. I always feel like the end of Heroes Reborn was not necessarily and we've done our job, you may have your characters back. It was more like Marvel said, stop what you're doing! We have to fix this now.
Well, it was very much like, give us back, come on, give us back.
Because
it's also weird, if you remember, there's those weird 13 issues of those 13 numbered issues of Heroes Reborn where the Marvel Universe crosses over the Wildstorm characters.
I remember it happening, I never read it. Was it cool?
It's not great. It's basically like they're all four. So they did one in each four titles, and they all it was like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. So you had to read all of them to get the story.
Right. Okay.
And at the time, I wasn't reading it. I have read them. They'll never be collected again. Ever,
I believe it.
because they're Wildstorm characters.
Yeah.
But I do know that was all about because of there was some delay. There was some delay thing of like Marvel didn't want the books to come immediately back to their publishing, and also there was a little bit of negotiation about whether Heroes Reborn was going to happen for a year 2.
Right.
And to bridge that gap, they did this 13th issue, and then Marvel's like, no, bring them back to us.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I was leafing through an old Wizard, and they reminded me of World War III. And
let me ask you, have you kept all your old Wizards?
Yes.
See, I got rid of a bunch of mine, but to be honest with you, I kind of wish I'd kept some of them.
I got rid of a large chunk of them, but I kept them all, but I didn't have as many as I thought I did. Like, I had maybe 20 or 30 issues of Wizard, and Tiffany wound up getting me another like chunk of Wizards. She found some.
So you've gone back and grabbing them. That's fine.
Yeah, and there's
some great interviews in those books.
Oh, I mean, like, they flew to wherever the hell Alan Moore lived, and they got Alan Moore to talk to them for like 4 pages back during a time when Alan Moore was a little friendlier and a little more approachable. They're fantastic interviews. There's great insights. It's a great way for me to like. They were doing what we do now 20 years ago.
Yeah, back then.
So getting an insight into like how people can, I mean, like in a world where I didn't have any peers, that magazine allowed me to like have inside jokes about this shit that I like memorized, you know? Like,
yeah, me too. There were several times when I couldn't afford comic books when I was in school and stuff like that, and also where I grew up, I just didn't have access to it. Mm-hmm. And so the greatest thing about it was that I would be able to read Wizard magazine and feel like I didn't miss anything.
Right. Yeah, they kept you up to date, and I loved how they would they would remind you or first tell you about books you never even knew about. I remember there was I didn't care about the value of comics back then, and still don't today. Yeah. But in the price guide, they had this great little like window where they put an issue and then summarized what the issue was about
and why it was valuable. Yeah,
and so you all of a sudden like wanted to know what happened in that issue. Maybe you didn't want to collect it to get a profit, but you just wanted to read the damn thing. And that was great. There were a lot of great things that came out of there, like regardless of the whole like, you know, being owned by publishers and, you know, giving good reviews to things that were garbage. I mean, like, they hammered a lot of things that didn't need to be hammered, so I'd say it was about 50-50.
Yeah, and they did go pretty lowbrow sometimes.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, they took.
Yeah. But you know, at the same time, like they were the YouTube comic book YouTube channels before they existed. Yeah. And that was something that was really great. And yeah, I don't know. Like, there's some great stuff, and you still look at Wizard like, man. Like, you look at some of those covers, and they have like, there's some specific art to Wizard that only exists on Wizard, and then they would always do like these little trading cards, and then the posters, and and like looking at it now, I'm just like, damn, I wish I'd kept all those.
Yes. No, let me tell you something. I was just one of the Wizards I have that I'm looking at right now has a fold-out image drawn by Joe Quesada of Spider-Man fighting the Lizard, Carnage, Venom, and Dr. Octopus and Hobgoblin. I have never seen anything like that before, and Joe Quesada's drawn Spider-Man a lot in the last 20 years.
Yeah, right.
And I've never seen a picture like that, and no one will ever be able to say, like, Marvel will never be able to like have that cover. No. I mean, I have you know what? Let me just geek out here. I have two posters here. We got my Spawn Batman poster from Wizard Magazine, drawn by Todd McFarlane. Mm-hmm. And my Spider-Man versus Hobgoblin poster by Mark Bagley. Which
I have to go to the. I'm just to tell everybody I have to go to the feed because there's a delay.
Oh right, yeah.
And Sal doesn't share his camera. He's shy.
I can't. The OBS stream, and Skype won't let me. Yeah, I'm shy. I don't want anybody to see what I'm up to.
You're wondering why I'm turning left? It's because I'm watching the stream with you to see these posters.
Yes. And this Mark Bagley Spider-Man Hobgoblin poster, I want to say it's one of the only Hobgoblin drawings by Mark Bagley. And it's
it wouldn't surprise me.
And it's really freaking cool. And I'm like, damn it, why hasn't he drawn anything like that before? Just really cool shit. But anyway, apropos events, we just covered one on Back Issues. We did The Final Night, which
I like that event.
I like that it's self-contained. I like that it did cross over into other things. It was also like world spanning.
It was just the miniseries, yeah.
Just the miniseries. It was pretty cool. Like, don't read it with a physicist.
No. But the thing I like about it is that that was something that I did like about the I was gonna say the DC events of the 90s, is that the DC events of the 90s tended to take chances and do weird stuff. Like, whereas I feel like we were talking about with X-Men, like we're just like, how do we recreate Age of Apocalypse? How do we keep doing this? Whereas the DC events, I feel like, and they may have been sprung out by Grant Morrison a little bit because he was in the middle of JLA, but they kept like being like, oh, what's the next event? Yeah. The sun goes out. What's the next event? Batman has to fight an earthquake.
Yeah.
You know, and so like when you think about that, you're like, when you hear that as like a storyteller, you're just like, that's an amazing idea. How are they going to do it?
Yep.
And so I appreciate, and sometimes they worked and sometimes they didn't, but I appreciate that it was something different every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where instead of like, oh, another repeat of Age of Apocalypse. Yay.
Yeah, I mean, like, that, literally, you could imagine at the Marvel offices them saying, like, okay, I want Age of Apocalypse for Spider-Man. I want Age of Apocalypse for the Avengers. Like, I want this event we just did, but for these characters. And
well, I actually think definitely someone in Marvel had a conversation with Spider-Man and looked at Nightfall and was like, they got a new Batman. How do we get a new Spider-Man?
Yep. And, oh, man, you could feel it when, as a avid Spider-Man reader, the period when they wanted to Nightfall Spider-Man was just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, where
I remember that because that's that famous cover. Well, I don't know if it's famous. It's famous because it's reviled, but it's like a close up of Peter Parker's face and his mask is ripped off and he's grimacing.
And he's just it's like he screamed his mask off.
Yeah,
so
and
bizarre.
You're like, no.
Oh my god, no. And how they like made it work plot-wise, where it was, so Spider-Man's parents came back from the dead, but it turns out they're LMDs created by the Chameleon, or actually they're created by Harry Osborn, who then subcontracted the Chameleon. The fact is, this makes Spider-Man lose his mind, and then he becomes the Spider, and just is angry and hardcore, and like beats his enemies even harder than normal. But, like, you're still red and blue and fun-looking. Like, it just didn't work. Mm-hmm. They actually made a joke about it before it even came to pass. Remember the Todd McFarlane cover of Spider-Man #1 where it says, "The Arachnite"?
Oh, yeah.
It was like, no. You can't make those two characters work. Like, you can't tell a Batman story with Spider-Man. They're completely different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, and that's the thing where they were like, oh no, let's just what's Death of Superman for every character? We can do it.
Yeah, what's Death of Superman for Bat? Yeah, well they did that.
They did do it. Yeah, that's what Nightfall is. You're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember as a kid not seeing the parallel, just being like, wow, it seems like everyone's getting a really hard time right now. Like, no, they just went like, oh, look at how successful it was.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. I'm trying to think about some other 90s events. Image didn't really do events because they're all separate.
You know what? They did do an event that I read every issue of. It was Mars Attacks Image.
Oh my god. In
which the Mars Attacks Martians invade the Image universe.
I'm Googling this right now. I gotta see this thing.
It is fucking weird.
I gotta see a picture of this stupid thing.
Because, Eric Larson, like, drank the Kool-Aid big time on that Mars Attacks thing, because he incorporated it such that, like, he implied... Because at that point, Savage Dragon's origin was still a grand mystery.
There is a cover. There is a cover. Issue 1 is this building, and it's, like, the Savage Dragon...
Yep.
I can't remember the lead... the redhead from Gen 13.
Oh, Fairchild.
Shadowhawk... And then on the top is like Spawn, and then there's like all the flying saucers and the beams are coming down.
Yep.
This covers. Oh, wait a minute! I found issue 2. It's like Witchblade, like getting ready to punch an ant. I am not joking. That is the cover to issue 2.
No, it is awesome. This event is so freaking terrible.
Oh my god, this looks ridiculous.
Literally, just Mars attacks the world, and the superhero community has to like fight them. And they kill off a few characters. They have they imply that like Savage Dragon is actually Agent Dry Gan of the Martian, like, geneticists soldier division.
Okay.
It just turns into garbage. I remember they tried to shoehorn in the Max at one point where, like, Max is fighting some Martians and, like, the superhero's like, you should join us, and he's like, no, and then he just leaves.
I do remember later on, and this was in the 2000s, of course, Warren Ellis did that event where the aliens attacked Wildstorm.
Oh my god, you mean aliens, like xenomorphs?
Yeah, like the alien. Yeah, like from the movie Alien. Yeah, and it's like what it's. I think it's just like I think it's Stormwatch aliens. But what he did, actually, what I think is smart is that he incorporated it into the story of Stormwatch.
Yeah.
And he used the alien attack as his way to launch the Authority.
Okay.
Because like the Stormwatch couldn't recover enough from the alien attack. Like the alien attack was so severe, and they did kill off a couple characters. And so that was like the genesis behind like, this is the reason why we got to watch the Authority, because Stormwatch is basically like in tatters.
Okay, that explains why. Because I have one issue, and it's Aliens Wildcats by Ellis, and that explains why it's so bafflingly simple and confusing. Like it's just.
There you go.
I was like, what the fuck is happening? And it's only like 13 pages or so. It's really short, and it's just doesn't make any sense. I was like, what the hell's happening here?
Yeah, but that's why. That's Warren Ellis was like, if you're gonna make me do this crossover, then I'm gonna make it matter, and I'm gonna kill people.
That's brilliant. I was looking through an old Wizard recently. This is literally how every conversation starts now. But they were DC was so proud of themselves because at that point in the magazine I was reading. They had done Crisis on Infinite Earths in like 84. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry, 86. And they were so proud of this idea, they were going to do a new Crisis. And they were going to call it 0 Hour.
Oh, I remember that.
And 0 Hour was like so inconsequential and confusing, and yet to read about the time capsule of hype that they had for it. They were so proud of themselves and so impressed with their plans. They were like, we're going to fix everything. And they're like, you just did this 10 years ago.
Well, I will say, 1, 0 Hour does make everything more confusing.
Yeah.
2, I love 0 Hour because it's so stupid. I love it.
Yes. And it's drawn by Dan Jurgens, and you're just like, what are you?
Well, like, number 1, the actual issues of 0 Hour, I love that they count down. Like, it starts with 4 and then it goes all the way to 0.
Yeah.
Also, I want to point out 0 Hour for me, giving those 0 issues were every title got a 0 issue, which was crazy at the time. Mm-hmm. I remember a lot of those 0 issues were jumping on points for me into those characters.
Oh, because
I started Starman,
Damage, everybody. Because they used the 0 issues to explain what the retcon for that character was.
Yeah, and each 0 issue was sort of like an origin tale for the character, with the exception of Green Lantern, because Green Lantern, which is, by the way, the best 0 issue of the whole event, it's Kyle Rayner versus Hal Jordan on Oa.
Yeah. And
Kyle Rayner beats Hal Jordan because he blows up Oa, and Hal Jordan was like, nobody would ever think to do that, and Kyle Rayner does it.
That's awesome. Yeah,
it's the best
because 0 Hour turns into a Green Lantern event, just like Final Night turns into a Green Lantern event at the end.
It is because they, I don't know, it was this weird thing where I actually, to be honest with you, I was never a big fan of Hal Jordan. So when they turned him evil, it didn't bother me.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a huge betrayal of the character. When I was growing up, growing up, there were already so many Green Lanterns that Hal Jordan was just like, who cares? Like,
yes, exactly. And now, of course, that's me coming at it as like a little kid reading Hal Jordan in the 90s.
Exactly.
So when they introduced Kyle Rayner was like the perfect introduction for me. So, and I thought actually that Hal being a villain, I loved his Parallax costume, by the way. I thought it was so
great.
Cool looking. It's great looking. He kind of became this like perfect villain to the DC universe, and also it was the nice little black and white, because if you look at Wally West, who was the Flash in the 90s, his mentor died saving the world.
Yeah.
And then Kyle's not mentor, but the person who he's going to be compared to is this terrible villain. So
that's true.
It's kind of a nice little yin and yang there.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I don't remember
But
them
you-
doing. I don't remember them really crossing Wally and Kyle over too much. I wish they did though.
They did. They tended to do it like they didn't do it until after JLA because
Okay.
Grant Morrison was the one who introduced the idea. But they did it like they would do it like every other year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah. And to show you, you had your poster time. Here's
Yeah.
mine. I love Kyle Rayner so much. I eBayed a comic book shop poster, and I found this one on eBay. This is a comic book shop advertisement of. If you notice, the logo is like old.
Yeah.
Um,
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's like you've got the most powerful weapon in the universe. What are you gonna do first? Coming in April or February.
That's really cool. I really like that.
Yeah, that hangs above my desk. It hangs like up there. So
That rocks. Yeah, man. I love the old comic book store ads.
Mhm.
I wish I could go get like old school ads for comic book stores. They had such great, awesome stuff.
They're expensive, man. You can find some of them on eBay. They're actually really cool posters, and I like them. That's part of the reason why I got it is because they're unique.
Yeah.
And they're also limited. Like they're
Right.
very limited. Tiffany Smith, my co-host at DC All Access, she has these two long, very skinny, like they're almost like only a foot wide, but they're like 3 foot long. And they're these two advertisements of the covers when they launched Superman Batman.
Oh, cool. Yes.
Yeah, so
I know what you're talking about.
It's the Ed McGuinness Superman going up, and it's the Ed McGuinness Batman going down. And they're like, and she has them like right beside each other. And I'm like,
That's
oh,
so
that's
cool.
so cool.
That's a great idea. Oh, man.
Yeah, yeah. There's also some really cool. I haven't been able to buy them because they've been so expensive. There are some really sweet Howard Porter 1990s JLA posters that are out there for comic book shops, and they're great.
Nice.
Yeah, but the comic shops always have those ads where they're just like the new thing coming in February, and like I said, it makes them unique.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's what you do. It's what art is. You know, like if you're a 20-something or you're a teenager or you're adorning your dorm room or your office or your living room, and you want something kind of unique and original. You know, I mean, like you look at any craft store or any like Michaels or Home Goods or whatever. There's stores that are vintage ads for things that you don't give a shit about. Comic book posters, like from stores, are like that thing, but for something you actually care about, or for something that's very specifically catered to you. It's like having a concert poster for a band you like, and yet, you know, those they make prints of anyway. But that's actually, I remember because I got my Spawn Batman poster, which I almost have up ironically. I looked it up because I was like, one of my favorite crossovers of all time is the Bagley DeMatteis Spider-Man Batman crossover. Mm-hmm. And I was like, when that came out, that should have been a big goddamn deal, and they must have made an ad for it. And I looked it up, and they did make a poster. Sucks. But I was like, it's a great poster. I want this, and I'll like, if I ever meet Bagley, I'll have him sign it. Mm-hmm. And I looked everywhere. That poster is gone. Like,
you just cannot find it.
Like, someone has a picture of it on like a GeoCities website. You know, like they
man,
have it
GeoCities.
somewhere.
I remember that.
Yeah, but you cannot buy that poster. So what happened was actually Tiffany wound up reaching out to Mark Bagley and commissioning a new version of the cover of the first issue.
Oh, nice.
And it was like,
that's really cool.
It was way better. Probably more expensive by a country mile, but
oh yeah, probably. 100%.
But it rocks. But yeah, but in my pursuit, I have a apropos poster since the show has gone off the rails. I have this really awesome poster that I saw at WonderCon last year.
Okay.
It was a Wayland Yutani like kind of ad poster, and
that's interesting.
Yeah, from Aliens, by the way, audience who's not familiar.
Yeah, in
with
case you don't know,
Yutani.
people, come on.
Yeah, catch up. And it's an image of Jonesy the cat from Alien holding a alien like pre-evolution xenomorph, the chest burster in its mouth, like it caught a cat, like it caught a mouse, and it says something like, "Wayland Yutani animal companions, a friend to you, end of the line for stowaways," and. Loved that poster, saw it, and was like, "That's awesome." I can't fit it in my.
Really cool.
I can't fit it in my poster. I can't bring that with me from WonderCon. And then for Alien Day, which Fox tried to kind of make a thing,
Yeah.
They were like, you know, if you want to do something for Alien Day, like, let us know. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll do my Batman Aliens crossover episode of Back Issues. And as like a kind of thank you, they mailed me that poster.
Oh wow, dude, that's cool.
Yeah, I was like, but
You know about Aliens Day.
Yeah,
that's cool. You know, but
yeah,
the
I don't know
opposite
either.
of Aliens, we're go to bring it back around to crossover.
Yes.
90s events. Batman versus Predator.
So great.
Good little book.
That is, book. I think that's one of the. I think that's a perfect crossover.
Yeah,
might be it might be my favorite Predator story of all time.
Oh, easily, because like it takes the material seriously. I think it's drawn by Adam Kubert.
It is. It's Andy Kubert.
Andy Kubert, excuse me.
No, not to be a jackass or anything, but I only know this because it's written
I always
by.
get them mixed up.
It's written by. Oh, so do I. Oh, and because their school is up the road. I see the Kubert name all the time, so I have no idea who anybody is. But Dave Gibbons of Watchmen fame wrote that story.
He did a good job. It holds up, man. Even to the point where where Alfred pulls out a shotgun and shoots the Predator. You're like, this is everything I need in the comic book.
It's amazing. Oh no, it is so great. For me, it's the fix for Batman / the Predator franchise when they weren't sure what they were going to do after Nolan left. I go, if you want a palate cleanser, do Batman versus Predator and just take that book and make it into a movie, because no one will wonder if this is in the Nolan verse.
Yeah.
Like, it will.
Although I don't think the studios would ever allow those properties to cross over. Ever.
I mean, because it'd have to be rated R, and nobody is going to finance an R-rated Batman movie, although they almost did with Batman '89 and with the Nolan movies. Aronofsky, yeah, his year one.
When he was making his, yeah.
Yeah, that, by the way, if you ever want to read something that would have fucked up Batman, take a look at Aronofsky's like $60,000 Batman movie.
Yeah, I would say that to anybody who's like, Batman v Superman's terrible, and you're like, no. Go read Darren Aronofsky's treatment. Yeah. That's what we could have got.
There's art for that, and it's like, fuck.
It is so bad. It's one that treatment is like, it's one of those. There's all those movies are out there, like you can find these treatments like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of these things where you're just like, man, who greenlit that movie?
It's true.
Who?
Well, it was just Warner Brothers being desperate. I remember when Warner Brothers was apparently toying with the idea of doing Dark Knight Returns and courting Clint Eastwood to play Batman.
Yeah.
And I'm like, first of all, I want to live in that world where that happened. But you know, it's funny. I want Rick's portal gun where I could just go see these movies that didn't happen. Like, I want to see the Batman Forever where they got Robin Williams to play the Riddler.
Yeah,
because that was the plan.
I know. I would have been down for that as well.
I would have been very different, but I want to see that.
Well, movie. it was originally supposed to be Robin Williams as Riddler, and then you go even to Batman and Robin. It was supposed to be originally Patrick Stewart as Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, which would have worked, but also would have been frustratingly terrible. Like Arnold being Mr. Freeze is already a joke, but yeah, poor Patrick Stewart. He hadn't yet become the joke that he is now. I love Patrick Stewart. I think he can do anything. I just mean, like, he's playing the poop emoji in the Emoji Movie, and he plays himself practically on American Dad. Like, Patrick Stewart has become, like, greater than himself so that he can be a parody but also still be, like, a member of the Royal Shakespeare Company. He has followed the example set by his predecessor, Captain Kirk, William Shatner. There's a certain point, it's interesting, there's a certain point where certain actors, I find, become parodies of themselves, and then that's what they just become. Christopher Walken's one of those. Christopher Walken.
Patrick Stewart's one of those. William Shatner's one of those.
Liam Neeson is pretty much that.
Michael Caine is basically that, except when he does a dramatic movie and reminds you that he's actually a good actor.
Yeah, you mean when Chris Nolan makes a movie?
Yeah, like every time he does a Chris Nolan movie, but otherwise, like Michael Caine in any movie, you're just like, oh, you're just doing a Michael Caine. Got it.
Yeah.
But also at the opposite end of that spectrum, I'm okay with it if actors like. Oh yeah. What a safe place to be in your career where people are basically just hiring you to be you.
Right. Oh no, that became it was already
Nicolas Cage. Somebody brought up, yeah.
Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage, man, Oscar award-winning actor.
By the way, Nicolas Cage, when Nicolas Cage wants to act, he's great.
He's a good. I still maintain he is a good actor. It's just that Sometimes, I mean, like, sometimes people swing for the fences, and then that became Nicolas Cage's character trait. Like,
Yeah.
I'm crazy. Like, what do you want? I saw The Jungle Book recently, the new one, finally.
I have not seen it yet.
It's pretty great.
Okay.
But Chris Walken plays King Louis. And he's just
he sings the song, right?
He sings the song.
Yeah.
As Chris Walken. He's not even close to being a character. He's just like, hey, what's going on, Mowgli? I'm gonna get you. Like, what are you doing?
How was Bill Murray as Baloo? Because Bill Murray is almost one of these actors too. Like, when you hire Bill Murray, you know exactly what you're getting.
That's right. He was good.
Okay.
But you know, I think they wrote it. I think they knew they were gonna get him, so they wrote it around him. You know, so they gave him Bill Murray-isms. That said, I didn't see the Bill Murray movie where he played like a talent agent that went to the Middle East.
Nobody saw that movie.
I know, but I remember I was like, that looks good, and it looks like one of those movies where Bill Murray's like, oh shit, I want to care again. Here we go.
Well, he's actually pretty good in Saint Vincent.
Yes.
He's pretty good in Saint Vincent. Because he's playing. Yeah, if you cast Bill Murray as something that's not Bill Murray, he'll actually act. He'll give you something. He's also in a movie where he plays FDR. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't see that movie, but I saw a couple scenes from it.
I can't remember the name of it, but he's great. He's great in it.
That's cool.
Yeah, when you cast Bill Murray in something where he plays Bill Murray, he's just going to be Bill Murray.
Yeah, you get him for Garfield, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, you're going to get Garfield. Like, it's like, all right, okay.
That's so funny. Garfield.
You know, before we go, we should mention one of the most successful 90 events of all time, Marvel vs. DC and Amalgam.
Just about to mention that. Amalgam, man. What a weird...
Be careful.
Perfect storm.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Oh, no. I mean... I
love Amalgam, dude.
Oh, I didn't even see it coming.
Yeah.
Like, when it was happening...
Nobody did.
No, I was just like... you're reading this event. You know that the audience is deciding the results of the fights. The fights are not great. The writing is non-existent. The art is fine. Mm-hmm. It's standard for the time. Not as good as it should have been, depending on when you think about what was coming out of it. And
I mean, I don't know. You can't really argue with Dan Jurgens and then Cecil. I can't remember the name of the artist.
I can't either.
They were the top cream of the crop at the time. And if you know a little bit of the behind the scenes in that book, it's very interesting. A big thing of why they made that book was because the comic bubble had burst.
Yeah.
We're sitting here, we're looking at a comic industry, and Marvel was starting to feel the bankruptcy talk starting. Mm-hmm. And both comic book companies were worried that comic book shops were going to go away.
Right.
And then they were going to be gone. And so they specifically designed that event as an event to bring people into stores.
That's a really good idea.
It was a little rushed, and they kept it secret for the longest time because the event started because Mike Grunwald and Mike Harlan started talking to each other, being like, oh, this would be a fun idea, and I bet it would sell like crazy.
Yeah. And
when they started planning it with Peter David and who wrote the other side?
Was it Chuck Dixon?
I don't know if it was Chuck Dixon. I don't know. I wanted to say Ron Mars, but I might be wrong on that.
I think you might be right. Let me look that up. It is Ron Mars.
They started having meetings at Mike Grunwald's apartment in New York. They would not have meetings in either of the other offices because they knew it would get out.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. I love the concept behind those guys working together. I love when they decide just what... That's one of the reasons why I was sad to see DC move to LA. Not for you, obviously, but for the rest of us over here on the East Coast. I was like, man, there's never going to be that moment where editor-in-chiefs are going to be like going to Zabar's, bump into each other and just go, we should just do something.
It'll happen again. You want to know why?
Why?
We are less than 10 years from Marvel coming to the West Coast, and I'm putting money on it right now.
I mean, there's no earthly reason for them to be here.
They will be on the Disney lot before the end of the 2020s.
That makes me sad, but also, like, it's inevitable.
Yeah. Disney, man. Disney wants to pull them together. Yeah. But you're at the other end of it, you're kind of right. Like, there is what is the reason for them being in New York besides just being in New York?
Yeah. I will say, I wish I could have gotten a tour of Marvel at the time, because I could literally go over there anytime. But, That's too bad.
Do they still do tours, Marvel?
Oh no! Oh no, they don't.
Oh, I think you might have told me this story before.
Yeah,
actually.
no, me breaking into Marvel one time. Yeah, we'll spare you. But no, they don't do tours. They kind of used to do tours when no one cared.
Ah, that sucks.
During the Bendis era, they were like, "Oh, okay, people are starting to show up. Like, get out of here." I think if you have a meeting, they'll let you in, but otherwise,
we got another guy who likes New Avengers. Check this guy out.
Yeah, get him out of here.
Get out. We don't care
here.
if you like Ultimate Spider-Man. Get out.
Everybody likes Ultimate Spider-Man. So
yeah,
long.
everybody likes it.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. Precisely. But no, DC Marvel, that might be the biggest because it involves both events, and they wound up making Amalgam Comics, this concept, twice. And they did that.
Twice, man. And also, there are 3 of those. Remember Access?
Oh, the All Access series?
Yeah.
Those are
there
bad.
Were 3 of them.
Yeah.
It was like the first one was just Access, the second one was like All Access, and then the third one was like Unlimited Access.
Yeah. Those were not great.
No. Well, the first one was okay because the first one led into the second Amalgam event, but like 2 and 3, it was like, okay, you are so far up each other's asses.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Well, 2 and 3 was like there was no oversight. Like no one looked at the script and went, "Oh no, this is garbage. You can't do this."
Well, it just became like, how many different universes can we combine and throw Access into it? Oh, this many? Okay.
I like the idea of Access going.
That's not the basis for a story.
No, I like the idea of Access going back in time and crossing over like old versions of characters, but we got it better in Avengers JLA with Kurt Busiek and George Perez, where
we did
like the timelines are all merging and getting messed up, and Hal Jordan and Barry Allen get to come back to life and fight a bad guy to get you get all that shit without that crap.
Although I would tell you, I would die if I saw Access on a comic book again.
That would be unbelievable. I think you're more likely to see like that baseball playing Marvel character like X-Pro or whatever before you ever see.
You're probably right, because I have a feeling that neither company would let it happen simply for the fact, or Marvel especially wouldn't happen, specifically for the fact that DC now has a show called DC All Access.
No, you can't bring. So it's like Disney wanting to not use Roger Rabbit. But
I will say that I have a prediction that in our lifetimes we will see certain of the Amalgam characters again.
You think you'll see the Amalgam characters again? Because I don't think we're ever going to see Amalgam again.
No, I think we will. I think we will. I think what I think is there will be either some charity event, or a book like Love is Love, or something like that, or some crazy like one shot where Marvel and DC crosses over, because they still do that every once in a while, and it will be. You'll see. I think you'll see like Dark Claw in it or something, or Spike Boy. Yeah. Like they'll just be like 1 or 2 of them.
I mean, Marvel hasn't done a crossover with anybody in nigh on a decade.
It's because of Disney.
Yeah.
And it's also because of certain of the uppity ups.
Well, yes, but like if the uppity ups were to either lighten up or go away. If it's Disney's if Disney's not interested in doing it, you're never like they're not it's not like Disney's ever gonna let Marvel go.
No, Disney will never let Marvel go, but Disney might loosen up the reins, because to be honest with you, it is all on the Disney side. It's 100% on the Disney side, because if you were to walk into DC right now and say, "Hey,
would you want to do that?
Let's do Marvel versus DC 2," they would all say yes.
Oh, really? That makes me even more. You know what? I've based on the amount of crossovers coming out of DC, which are, by the way, all pretty great. Mm-hmm. That was the feeling I had, was that it's all on Marvel side, just being like, nah, we don't need it. We don't even cross over with ourselves anymore. Like, because all you have to do is look at some of the fun. Like, there is a Justice League Power Rangers comic book right now. There is I love the Green Lantern Star Trek book. There's a second one. It's out now. It's it's like deep in growth. There's a Green Lantern Planet of the Apes crossover.
I've heard that one was mixed. I haven't read it yet.
I haven't read it yet, but no. I don't know who asked for it, but it wasn't me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's asking for any Planet of the Apes crossovers.
I don't know. Did you see that Planet of the Apes Star Trek crossover, where it was the original series and the original movie.
I read the first issue of it. I didn't really dig it.
I read the full trade of that.
What'd you think?
It was like fun.
Okay.
You know, it's exactly what it promises to be, you know, but at the same time, it's like, what are you doing?
And MT Kaiser Soze in the chat, he said, anybody read the JLA Wildcats crossover? Hell yeah! Also, anybody remember the Batman Planetary crossover? That was freaking awesome too.
I do remember that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so like it's interesting. I don't know. I think DC versus Marvel could happen again. The saddest part about it is that I think the industry would have to be hurting again for it to happen.
That's my theory too. Is that the only way that we got it in the first? Well, the real question is, how did they get the JLA Avengers crossover to happen again? Because
that happened like 5 or 6 years down the road.
Because it happened, I think, post Civil War, or at least around the same time as Civil War. No, it was.
I thought it was like right before.
It was pre-Civil War, but it was like right before. So Marvel had already.
It was like 2004, so it was like 2 years ahead of time.
You know what it was? Yeah. It might have been. I don't know if Jemis was still there, but it might have been just part of the like, hey, we're trying them all. Let's see what clicks. Like. Era of Marvel, because like
okay, so this is from Wikipedia, but I have heard this story before, so I'm going to add to it.
Okay.
Apparently, because it was at the time when Kurt Busiek was writing the Avengers and Mark Waid was writing JLA, and on a joint WonderCon panel, they said that they really wanted the opposite teams to appear in those respective books, to not make it a separate event.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
How you would have these 2 issues of JLA that have the Avengers in it? Oh man,
that would be amazing.
They said that they had talked about it, and finally they got an agreement between the 2 companies to make it a separate event. But unfortunately, by that time, Mark Waid was unavailable because he had run to CrossGen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so Kurt Busiek took up the event, and they kind of made JLA Avengers.
That's awesome.
So 2 writers pushed for it. At a comic book convention, the fans kept asking for it, and it happened.
That's, I mean, I've heard that Scott Snyder and Bendis like this Daredevil Batman crossover idea. I would love that.
Snyder and Todd McFarlane have also talked about a Batman Spawn 2 as well. Which Greg Capullo would fully draw.
Please. That's something. If there's anything that we can do here at ComicPOP to make that a reality, let me know, and we'll push it.
I think the best way you can make it happen is keep asking the publishers.
Yeah.
Keep asking the creators. If they keep seeing it, like if they keep seeing it online
they can factor in the cost and be like, okay, this translates into this amount of revenue, we'll be fine.
Exactly, but be respectful. Like, don't go to Scott Snyder's wall and like ask him every day.
Don't bug the dude. Like,
don't bug the dude, and don't go to a comic book convention and like every comic book convention. Don't be known as like, oh man, there's the
that's
Batman
the crazy
Spawn
person
guy.
who wants to see that stupid crossover.
Yeah. But go up to Scott Snyder at a convention, go to his table, say like, "Hey, I'm a big fan." What are the chances? I really want to know, what are the chances of Batman Spawn 2 happening again?
Yeah.
And ask it that way, but if you ask him at every convention that way, then he'll take you seriously. Then he'll go talk to Mark Doyle, Batman editor, and be like, "Hey, we should probably do this."
Yeah, this is a thing, and like, why not, right?
Exactly. Well, you know what, dude? I'm with you. Why not?
That's something where it's literally, it hurts no one to do that.
Yeah, I have a feeling. With that one, it's Todd McFarlane.
Really, you think?
Who is the big?
The big pushback is? I mean, like, why? He's not. I mean, not to begrudge the dude, but it's not like he's really like busy.
But the fact of the matter is he's very controlling of Spawn.
This is true.
And I understand it. Like, he broke away from Marvel, created that character. I know he's very controlling of Spawn.
Yeah.
So like, I have a feeling. And also at the same time, like, it wouldn't surprise me if DC is like, look, you just can't. You can't kill Batman. Like, you can't decapitate Batman in the story. Come on.
But yeah. Well, I mean, that's just something that everybody understands. Like, we're not doing Spawn Batman to kill Batman.
Yeah.
Todd.
Like, but you never know. Like, like on both sides, that DC would be like, well, Batman has to be well represented.
Yeah.
And he can't be in a story where I'm murdering everybody.
No. I guess, you know what it might be? It might be the toy rights.
Yeah.
Like maybe
that could be it as well, man.
where he's
I
like,
don't know.
I want it, but I'll do it, but I have to be able to make the Batman Spawn like action figure set. And DC's gonna be like, no, we have our own guys for that. We're not gonna let you do that.
Yeah, and also as well that there probably is, Warner Brothers also being a corporation, of course, they have to protect their properties as well.
Yeah.
And it's and all these crossovers is a bunch of legalities. What was the other one? Batman Daredevil?
Batman Daredevil, that's the one I want.
Batman Daredevil. Oh, Bendis and Snyder, man. God,
right?
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Why have they? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. It's
I'll tell you what too. Like I'm putting money on it that Bendis is scooped up by DC in the next 5 years.
No question. Well, okay, I do have a question. No, my theory about Bendis is that he'll be editor in chief in 5 years.
Oh, really? You think Axel Alonso will go? He'll stay Marvel?
Yeah, I think that. I think Axel Alonso will go, and I think if they want to keep Bendis, he's going to be like, if you want to keep me, I got to be in charge.
Well, Axel Alonso is a great editor who made some amazing books at his time during Vertigo. Like Preacher happened because of him.
Yeah.
He shepherded Hellblazer with Brian Azzarello. Fables happened because of Axel. But I will say his stuff over at Marvel, man, I don't know. Like
not
ever since he took over.
That's the thing, is that Marvel can point to sales figures and community response and say, this isn't working. We need somebody we trust, and like we trusted Bendis to write this cash grabbing event Civil War II, and it ain't Bendis' fault it failed.
I don't know, man. I would put a little bit of that on Bendis, but
I mean, I think it's because Bendis didn't care. Bendis isn't
Marvel. You're probably exactly right on that. He did the best he could, but like, man, who could make that story work?
That's
probably
the thing.
Nobody.
That's why. I mean, like, look at Civil War II. It's supposed to be this big Marvel crossover. There was 4 characters in that damn thing. Like,
yeah. The interesting thing about that is that I will say that Marvel was its best when they had a creator on top, and I would argue that Marvel of the 2000s with Joe Quesada was one of the best periods of Marvel of all time. People
will get real upset. People will fight you over that, but I agree with you.
Yeah,
because
but Bendis would be the same thing. I think.
I think a desperate Marvel's the best Marvel. Honestly, like a Marvel that's
like, guys, we've been kicking the balls too many times. We got to do something.
Literally, I think it's like Marvel in Trouble is one of the best Marvels, which is kind of like a human interest story. Like that's who we all like. You prove your mettle at your hardest moment. Like are they your best or your worst? And I think Marvel can prove that like they know what they're doing as long as they're like, oh crap. We need this to succeed.
We have a guy in the comments that's saying, Shooter was the man, and Jim Shooter definitely did some stuff, but
he pissed off a lot of people.
Well, you just got to look at all you have to do is look at the 2000s.
Yeah.
And you can see how many definite runs on characters happened in the 2000s at Marvel.
Yeah.
Definitive runs. And yes, there are definitive runs from the 80s. John Byrne's The Fantastic Four.
Yep.
I would even give you Mark Gruenwald's Captain America.
Yeah. Roger Stern's Spider-Man, or I think, there was a
Roger Stern's Spider-Man. But the 2000s did this interesting thing where they kicked all those characters in the ass.
Yeah.
Made them interesting. And created definitive runs.
That's right. Well, they took story seriously. They were like this. Like we're not focused on gimmicks and but gimmicks still too pays the bills.
There were some gimmicks.
We got to do the gimmicks. I mean, like, look, McDonald's still sells Happy Meals. Like, come on. But
that's right.
But yeah,
you're never gonna get away from gimmicks. Yeah, Miller's Ultimates came from the 2000s.
Yeah. One of the best / most dated comics I've ever read.
That's true, man. But it still holds up. I love that.
Still holds up. You just replace the celebrities.
Yeah. Morrison's New X-Men.
Yeah. Yeah. DeMatteis, I mean, what's it called? Straczynski Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's from that time, too. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of Mark Waid, Mark Waringo, Fantastic Four is in that period, too.
So great.
I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, so that's Brian Bendis is the head of Marvel. So I think if we can take any lesson from away from this.
Yes.
If you want this stuff to happen, bother the creators respectively. Yes. I saw one person in the comments said that he just emailed Todd McFarlane through his Facebook.
Yeah,
that's a great move. But
Yeah.
Don't do it every day.
Don't spam them, and be respectful.
Be respectful.
You know,
Be
usually
like,
tell them why you respect them so much, and then maybe follow it up with, and you know what I'd love to see? This. I will say, Ben from our channel brought his copy of Spawn Batman to New York Comic Con 2 years ago, and we saw there was a line for Todd McFarlane. We hung around the line. He left, and as he was leaving, Ben bumped into him, and he was like, "Hey man, listen. I know you got a couple seconds, but, like, I just want you to say I love this issue." And he looks at Spawn Batman in his hand, and he goes, "All right." And then he shook his hand and then left. Like, it's like he is not proud of that book. But he was also like, you know what? You brought this fucking issue with you to the Comic-Con for me to sign. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, he didn't call him an idiot. So.
He wasn't like, he didn't get annoyed. I think he could sense Ben was being genuine. You know, he wasn't just like, fuck you. It wasn't like bringing the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way book to a Rob Liefeld booth, which is like, people do that.
And being like, you really need this.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't bother creators. They're stuck at that booth. They're there 8 hours a day. Nobody wants to be given a hard time.
It's the fact of the matter. It's the same thing like what I said at the beginning when the one guy was in the comments or whatever. It's a film. It's like, you don't show up to somebody's house with dog poop.
Yeah. Well,
okay, you don't be like, hey, I brought you dog poop. Nobody's gonna be like, thank you. Everyone's gonna be like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. They're gonna think you're crazy.
Exactly. And it's the same. People are people no matter who they are. They're all people. So treat those creators the same as people. They're people.
That's right. Think about how excited you are when a favorite creator of yours favorites one of your tweets. Now imagine how they would feel if you tweeted at them every day about what an asshole they are.
Yeah.
Amplify your excitement in the opposite direction. Because nobody needs to be reminded.
I'm certain Sal and I definitely can tell you stories about people that have done that to me on the internet.
Oh yeah, only on the internet though. I've never run into a fan who's like, "Hey, I fucking hate you."
I have.
Really?
New York Comic Con last year.
Oh yeah, that's where you're gonna find them.
Yep, New York Comic Con. All 3 people stopped me.
No shit.
With my wife to tell me how much they hated me.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and I was like, "Wow, thanks."
That sucks.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, people are people. So treat people like people.
That's right. Yeah. Treat them how you want to be treated.
And maybe if we're nice enough, we can bring Dark Claw back.
Why not, right? Anything can happen in this world.
I want Dark Claw back.
I know. He's a cooler drawing. But all right, guys, we'll see you next week with another episode of Elseworlds Exchange. Jason, thanks so much for being here, and of course, check the description box below.
Fun.
Oh, thank you very much. And check the description to go to JupiterJetComic.com, and you got 8 days left to fund that Kickstarter, to amplify the fund for the Kickstarter, because you've already made it. But now, let's get the extra mile.
Get yourself a Nicholas Scott print, Seriously. And we have trading cards too.
There's a lot. Maybe we'll get a chrome foil cover out of this thing.
Somebody asked me that, actually. Somebody messaged me and they were like, "Do you ever think you would do like a chromium like 90s cover for Jupiter Jet?" And I thought about it for a second, but then I was like, "That's too expensive."
It is too expensive.
It's so expensive.
Yeah, maybe at least an embossed cover. Who knows?
There you go. I can go 90s with that.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. And of course, stay tuned to this channel to watch us do The Mask and the Iron Man by Joe Quesada on back issues. Thanks to you, Jason, by the way. You suggested that book.
You're welcome.
It's one of the worst books we've ever done. All right. So long, everybody.